The Amalfi Coast. The Amalfi Coast in Italy is a beautiful place to travel. It's a beautiful area with an interesting culture. Located on the Tyrrhenian Sea next to the Mediterranean in southern Italy, the Amalfi Coast has high mountains and amazing beaches. Amalfi is on the west coast of Italy, and it takes less than 4 hours to drive there from Rome, the country's capital. You'll love it from the moment you arrive there. There are many activities for travelers, including beautiful beaches for swimming. You can also play games on the beach and catch frisbees. A boat trip is a good way to spend the day, and you may see ducks and other birds sitting on the water. Fishing is also a popular activity. There are dozens of villages on the Amalfi Coast, and you can visit one of them to see how a typical local person lives. If you're friendly, you might even get invited into someone's house to enjoy home-cooked Italian food. Italians like drinking alcohol, especially wine. The Amalfi Coast has lots of gardens to explore. Italy is famous for its pizza and pasta. However, the Amalfi Coast is also well known for fish and octopus because it is located next to the water. Pastries are a popular breakfast food on the Amalfi Coast. August is a popular month to travel to the Amalfi Coast because the weather is warm. It's easy to spend a week traveling around the area. Make sure to take a camera so you can take a lot of photos. We're sure you'll agree that it's a great place.
The laboratory. Mia's father had a laboratory, but she had no idea what was in it. Her dad always closed and locked the door when he went in. She knew that he used it to do projects for work. He never told Mia what these projects were. One night, Mia approached the door to the laboratory. She stopped and thought, "I wonder what crazy experiment he is doing now." Suddenly, she heard a loud noise. It sounded like an evil laugh. The noise scared her, so she walked quickly back to her room. The next night, her friend Liz came to her house. When Liz arrived, Mia told her about the night before. "Oh, it was terrible," she said. "Why don't we see what is in there?" Liz asked. "It will be a fun adventure." Mia felt nervous about going into her father's laboratory, but she agreed. As always, the door was locked. They waited until Mia's father left the laboratory to eat dinner. "He didn't lock the door," Liz said. "Let's go." The laboratory was dark. The girls walked down the stairs carefully. Mia smelled strange chemicals. What terrible thing was her father creating? Suddenly, they heard an evil laugh. It was even worse than the one Mia heard the night before. What if a monster was going to kill them? Mia had to do something. She shouted for help. Mia's father ran into the room and turned on the lights. "Oh no," he said. "You must have learned my secret." "Your monster tried to kill us," Mia said. "Monster?" he asked. "You mean this?" He had a pretty doll in his hands. The doll laughed. The laugh didn't sound so evil anymore. "I made this for your birthday. I wanted to give it to you then, but you can have it now. I hope you like it."
The report. Lee sat among the books at the library and thought about his group project. They had to turn it in soon, but he hadn't even started his part. Jack and Claire were in his group. They had worked hard. They were also very smart, and Lee didn't want them to get a bad grade. Jack did the report. He wrote a lot of very good sentences and described things clearly and carefully. Claire drew a nice map of the stars. Now, Lee needed to do his part of the project. Well, I suppose I need to start my model, Lee thought. Making a model of a planet was really hard. Lee tried to read several books, but he couldn't understand any of the charts. "We're going to fail because of me," Lee said. He put his head down on the table and said, "I wish I could see a planet and an alien instead of having to read about it." Suddenly, he had a great idea that would help him solve his problem. Why not go on the web and look for photographs of the Earth and other planets taken from space? They would give him a really good view of the planets they had to talk about in their report. Instead of a bad grade, his group would have the best project ever. The photos of Earth showed lots of clouds, but you could still see the shapes of land and seas on Earth. He also looked at photos of Mars. Lee now had plenty of ideas for making a model of the planet Mars. All he had to do was to turn his ideas into a model. He used a small ball to help him make the shape he wanted and then painted it to look like the photos of Mars that he had seen. Sometimes, seeing is much more helpful than just reading.
The dog's bell. John's dog was a bad dog. He bit people frequently. John was concerned about this. It was not an appropriate way for a dog to behave. His friends in the village always expected the dog to bite them. The news about John's dog spread through the village. None of the people wanted to go to John's house. John tried to instruct the dog to behave, but it never worked. He tried to be patient and teach the dog to be calm. That also didn't work. John didn't want to punish the dog. How will I stop my dog's bad habit? John asked himself. John's friend came to talk to him about the issue. During their important meeting, his friend said, the people in the village asked me to represent them. We want your dog to stop this habit. Why don't you put a bell around the dog's neck? This way, we would hear your dog coming down the street. John thought this was a great idea. Now people could stay away from the dog. It would not be able to bite anyone anymore. The dog liked the bell too. People looked at him when they heard his bell. This made the dog very content. He liked the sound the bell made when he walked. One day, John's dog strolled through the village and met some other dogs. He expected them to want a bell like his, but they laughed at his bell. They said the bell made people avoid him. John's dog shook his head. No, they look at me because they like the bell. The other dog said, You have the wrong idea about what makes you popular. Of course they like your bell. It tells them where you are, so they can avoid you. You aren't able to bite them anymore. You see, being popular isn't something positive when it's for the wrong reason.
Ironman races. Have you heard of the Ironman triathlon? It's considered one of the most challenging sporting events in the world. Competitors swim, ride a bike, and run. The race consists of a 3.86-kilometer swim, a 180.25-kilometer bicycle ride, and a 42.2-kilometer run. There are no breaks during the race, so competitors must keep going no matter what. People who choose to enter this race must be healthy and prepared in both mind and body. Ironman races are held all over the world. Some well-known competitions take place in New Zealand, Germany, and California in the United States. There are several rules for those who want to compete in the Ironman. The minimum age of racers is 18, so everyone who competes is an adult. Training for the Ironman can take more than a year. People who train often start practicing the events at shorter distances first, and then increase the amount of length and time they swim, bike, and run. Training can be difficult because people need to find a balance of strength and endurance training. Without enough training, people can get bad injuries. Some people even gain weight when training because their bodies store calories instead of using them for energy. All people in training should drink plenty of water. Doctors believe that exercise is good for people's health and helps the heart. People participate in other sports and games such as golf or American football. But the Ironman is a challenging way to stay fit. Even though it is hard, it can still be fun. It's a great way to stay active and enjoy life.
The twins. Katie and Alice were twins. They were so alike that few people could tell them apart. They were almost like seeing one person looking in a mirror. They even spoke in the same way as each other. They were best friends. But the twins' attributes were not all exactly the same. Alice preferred sports and was a star athlete in soccer. Katie preferred foreign languages and was bilingual in French. Katie decided to be a participant at a summer camp in France. Alice wasn't interested in the French language, so she didn't go. But she was angry that Katie wanted to spend the summer away from her. 2 months later, Katie returned. Alice dashed to the airport to greet her sister. But when Alice saw Katie, she was surprised. Katie now spoke French, and she looked completely different. She was wearing fashionable clothes, and she looked taller. Alice felt very messy next to her. She was just wearing an old t-shirt, and her hair looked untidy. When Alice asked Katie about France, Katie was vague and didn't say much. It made Alice feel tense and filled her with disgust because in the past, they'd always told each other everything. Now there was a huge gulf between them. Over the weeks, the sisters spoke even less. 2 months later, it was the twins' birthday. All their lives, they'd had a ritual. Before their birthday, they'd talk all night long. That night, Alice came into Katie's bedroom. "I'm sorry I haven't spoken to you much lately," Katie said. "I understand. You have new friends now," said Alice angrily. Katie said, "My French friends don't write much nowadays. For a while, I thought they were more exciting than my friends at home, but I was wrong. You're my sister, and you'll always be my best friend." Alice said, "I'm sorry too. I wanted our relationship to stay the same forever, but it's totally natural for twins to have different interests. We can still be best friends without being together all the time."
The Best Prince. King Minos was very sick. His condition was getting worse. He had 3 sons. He loved them all. He had to announce who would become king. 2 of the princes stood waiting outside the king's room. Theseus was the oldest and strongest. He thought his father would make him king. Peleus, the second son, thought differently. He was an expert in fighting. He thought the king would choose him. "When I'm king," Theseus told Peleus, "I'll let you contribute to protect our country. You can lead the army." Peleus became angry. "Father knows I'm famous for my fighting skills. He'll make me king." "You?" Theseus said. "He won't choose you." "The kingdom is mine," Peleus claimed. "Father will give it to me, or I'll use force to take it." Theseus made a sudden move to take out his sword. Then Peleus did the same. "Beating me will be a challenge," Theseus said. "Fight me now. The winner gets the kingdom." Peleus agreed. King Minos could hear his sons fighting. The youngest son, Jason, stood beside him. He sensed his father's sadness. The king laid his hand on Jason's arm. "Your brothers fight too much," the king told him. "I must protect my kingdom from all harm. They'll divide it between them. The people won't know what to do. There'll be war. I can't allow either of them to be king. Therefore, I'm making you king. Your kindness has always made you special. It's the difference between you and your brothers. You can bring peace. They can't." Then the king died. Theseus and Peleus heard that their youngest brother was king. They were surprised. They realized that their fighting was wrong. It had kept them from saying goodbye to their father. They agreed to have Jason as their king. He was the best choice.
How the sun and the moon were made. Do you ever wonder where the moon and the sun came from? The Inuit people of Alaska have a theory. They tell a story about a beautiful girl. She was very nice. In contrast, her brother was a mean little boy. One day, he proposed something. "We should go to a party," he said. The girl accepted. First, it was necessary for her to get ready. She arranged her hair and put on nice clothes. This required a lot of time, but the girl worked hard and soon she was satisfied. She looked perfect. They attended the party together. The girl was having fun. Later, she walked into the bathroom. Suddenly, the lights were turned off. Someone grabbed her hair and tore her clothes. She ran out of the bathroom. She wanted to know who did this to her. Then she had an idea. She fixed her hair again. This time, it was even more beautiful. She even arranged beautiful jewels in it. She wanted to encourage the person to grab it again. She put black dirt in her hair. The purpose of this was to catch the person. She went to the bathroom again, and it was the same pattern. The lights went off, and someone grabbed her hair. When he released it, his hand was black. The girl returned to the party. She knew there was only a single person with a black hand. When she saw that person, he was very familiar. It was her brother. He ran into the woods. The girl ran after him. They both carried fire so they could see in the dark. The smoke went into the air. As they ran, they grew. They became huge. Then they went into space. When the girl's fire went out, she hung in the sky. She became the moon, and her brother became the sun. They chase each other forever.
Service animals. Have you ever seen a blind person on the bus with a dog? This dog is most likely a service animal. A service animal is an animal that is trained to do things for people who cannot do them alone because of a disability. Dogs are most usually used as service animals because they are intelligent animals. They also have a good sense of smell and can sense dangerous situations. In addition, dogs are easy to train and are loyal to their owners. When they are close to their owners, dogs will do anything to keep them safe. Service dogs are sometimes called guide dogs or hearing dogs. These dogs can help people who cannot see or hear. They are trained to open and close a door, push a button, and listen to a command. These dogs can also help people who have a hurt leg and need to use a wheelchair to get around. Service dogs are strong and can even pull wheelchairs. If these people ever need medical attention, the dogs are trained to bark and get help. Dogs can also be used as therapy dogs. Therapy dogs may visit a school or hospital to help people who are feeling lonely or anxious. Their bad feelings can create health problems. Therapy dogs can provide kindness and love to improve a person's mood, which can then improve that person's health. Although dogs are the most common service animals, there are other animals that can be trained to be service animals as well. You might see a cat, a rabbit, or a horse that is used as a service animal. These animals can keep a person company and become a good friend. Many people depend on service animals for help. Service animals can do jobs that people cannot do alone. And they can help improve the health of people by making them feel happy.
The first peacock. Argos lived in ancient Greece. He was a husband and a proud father. He worked hard and did well at his job. But one thing about him wasn't normal. He was born with 100 eyes. Having many eyes was usually a benefit to him. He had a chance to see many things. Also, since he had so many eyes, he was very good at guarding things. While sleeping, he only rested a few eyes at a time. The others stayed open. He worked for Hera, a great goddess. His primary function was to guard a special cow. The cow was very important to Hera. She loved it. The most essential part of his job was to keep the cow alone. It had to be kept separate from all the other cows and far away from people. This was an easy job for Argos. The cow just ate grass all day. But the god Zeus wanted the cow. He wanted to take it away from Hera. He had a plan. He found a great music player. He asked the man to play a beautiful song for Argos. Zeus was certain Argos would go to sleep. The song had an immediate effect. Argos couldn't focus on his job. He fell asleep. Zeus saw this and he took the cow. Hera was very angry with Argos. She turned him into a peacock. She put his many eyes on his tail. Argos was very sad. Zeus saw how much trouble he had given Argos. He made another plan. He turned Argos into a group of stars. He wanted Argos to remain in the sky forever. Even today, Argos's image remains there, above the site where all his problems began. We can still see him in the night sky.
Keeping our earth clean. Across the world, places are increasing their efforts to recycle and help the environment. Recycling is when trash is reused and not thrown away. In recent history, more and more cities and countries have started recycling. These places have developed their recycling programs to stop our earth from being covered with trash and black, dirty air. According to the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, recycling also helps save energy. The agency encourages the recycling of glass and plastic bottles, paper, and aluminum cans. Many European countries have strong recycling programs as well. Austria, Germany, and Norway are well known for being leaders in recycling. And South Korea and Wales are countries that have a lot of recycling as well. There are many reasons why some countries recycle more than others. The fact is that these governments support recycling, and they are aware of its importance. There is also a lot of money spent on recycling. However, It is also necessary for people to try hard to recycle what they can from their own homes. Other ways to fight the waste problem also exist. Many cities place recycling bins on their streets. There are recycling projects across some cities, and in these projects, companies advertise the need to recycle. This helps keep the city streets clean. Electric cars are another way to keep the environment clean. The motors of these cars are electric. They get their power from electricity and batteries rather than from gas. The hope is that eventually all cities in all countries will recycle and make our Earth a cleaner place. We must protect nature and never stop thinking about how to protect it. So think before you throw away something that can be recycled.
The Crazy Artist. Fraunhofer was the best artist in the world. Everyone loved him. The quality of his paintings was very high. He always used the best materials. He made a big profit from his paintings. He had delicious meals with his rich neighbors. He taught art classes. Life was good. Then his attitude changed. He stopped selling paintings and teaching. He tried a new method of painting. He stayed alone in his apartment all day. He worked all day and all night, rarely eating. Soon Fraunhofer became very thin, but he kept working on the same painting for many years. He worked as hard as he could. Finally, he finished the painting. He was very happy and invited other artists to see it. "I want your professional opinion," he said. He wanted them to judge it and compare it to other paintings. Everyone was very excited as they went up the stairs to his apartment. Fraunhofer was excited to show his painting, and the artists were excited to see it. "They'll love it," he thought. But they did not. They were surprised by his painting. There was no white anywhere. Fraunhofer filled the whole painting with lines and colors. There was no space for a normal picture. It was full of strange shapes. It looked bad to the other artists. He used symbols, and they didn't understand them. They thought it was terrible. "Why did you paint this strange picture?" someone asked. They didn't understand its beauty. But after some time, many people began to like his painting. People wrote articles about it in magazines. They said it was his best work. They loved his strange symbols. They loved his strange colors. Fraunhofer's painting reminded everyone that just because something was new didn't mean that it was bad. He also helped them to realize that sometimes it takes people a little time to understand great things.